So now we've got an idea of how we're going to structure this deal. How do we pay for it? And how do we pay for it without coming out of pocket? So unfortunately, we've only been able to identify 159 ways to do that. I promise that we'll come up with more. Okay? Now, what I did before was, you have the 159 in your book. I don't want to spend the next 17 hours going through all 159 with you, so I'm going to go through 59 of them, and if you need more, I will talk with you personally about it, okay? But you won't, because a lot of them are related. So just going through, do you want to do this one or you want me to do this one? Go ahead. Okay, so the first thing is asset carve-outs. Asset carve-outs are, there's a purchase price of $1 million, there's $300,000 of assets that are non-operating assets I don't need. I just say, I don't want those. You can keep them. I'm carving them out. The price is now $700,000. Okay? There might be operating assets that I also don't need all of that I might carve out as well. So it's just things that I'm going to take out of the deal to reduce the purchase price in a corresponding amount of the value of the asset in the deal. Make sense? Cash would be the easiest thing to do that with. Okay? The second thing would be a milestone earn-in. So that would be where I say, okay, I'm going to do these things for the company and I'm going to vest my equity, which I'm going to take as options or phantom equity, probably phantom equity. I'm going to take that as soon as I achieve this milestone. I just did a deal like that night before last, right? It's a guy said, I want to do that, I want to accomplish this thing, and I said, I can do that for you, and he said, awesome. If you can do that for me, I will give you this much of the company, and I said, fine, right? So we have a milestone earn-in deal. Sweat equity is there's no milestone. You're just saying, I'm going to come in and I'm going to be the CMO, or I'm going to do this thing, or I'm going to give you this many hours and you're going to give me X amount of equity for that. Okay? You get it without having to accomplish anything definite and specified. You can go and get other people to invest. You remember in that one deal with the $100 million company, we got $5 million of co-investors. Pipe wrench, I told you I would tell you the story. So the pipe wrench is kind of the real estate worldwide. Kent just fell in love with this. And this is, my business partner Perry told a story that I think illustrates this very well. He said that his uncle, who was kind of an ex-Marine, grumpy, drunk kind of guy, was in a bar late one night and stumbled outside. And some guy came up to him and said, hey, listen, I need you to give me your money. And the guy was like, screw you, I'm not giving you anything. He said, well, here's the deal. I really need your money, and I've got this pipe wrench. And so you can either give me your money, or I can hit you upside the head with the pipe wrench, and then I'm going to take your money and you're going to have a headache. And the guy said, screw you, and took his money, gone. So the pipe wrench deal to me is that you have a pipe wrench in your hand, and you're sending a significant amount of business to somebody else, and you're building their brand. And you say to them, I love you, mean it, but I'm not going to build your brand for you. So if I'm going to continue to send you this business, then, and Kent does it very matter of fact. Kent's like, hey, I'm sending you a bunch of business, you give me 20% of your business, or I'm going to find somebody else. I like to say, and probably because I just like to do this. I say, hey, I know we've been sending you a lot of your business, and you're probably afraid that that's not going to continue to happen. I like that because I like to watch their face when it's like, I'm like our cat. Our cat one day, she found a mouse, and we came up to her bowl, and she had put the mouse live in her bowl for later. So that's pipe wrench deal. You could do pre-sale tests. So that's when you go to your seller and you say, listen, I think that we got a deal, but I want to be sure that this is a fit for my customers because this is a tuck-in deal. And so I want to run a test offer to your people. So all it really is you say, and I'll pay you 50% of it. But what you're doing also is you're generating the other 50% to fund the down payment on the deal. Okay? So that's just a pre-sale test. Then private lenders, so these are people who are in the business of lending money, or they're not. Like in our business, when I first got involved with Ryan and Perry said, hey man, we could do $5 million a month if we had $2 million to work with to buy inventory. And I said, awesome. I said, how much do you need? He said, $2 million. I said, okay, $2 million, we can do $5 million a month? Absolutely. Fantastic. So I was talking to my neighbor, and he said, God, I'm bored. I sold my company and I've traveled and I play golf every day, and you're so lucky that you keep working. It's cute that you're working, but but you're lucky that you get to do it. I wish I could too. Is there anything that we could do together? And I said, as a matter of fact, if you would loan us $2 million, then, that'd be great. I'll give you a higher return and we'll involve you in the business, not as an equity owner. He said, I'd like to have equity. I said, no. We gave him 12% on his money on $2 million. So it was great for him, way more than he could get anywhere else. And we had the $2 million, just like that. I mean, it took like a week. So
did you make him the mailroom boy or the coffee maker so you had something to do?
I did not do that. So network with rich people. That's not on here, but.
And the thing that's great about private money is, first of all, it's fast. And it's a human, as opposed to, some kind of bank or something like that.
This guy's more inhuman, but.
But anyway, I prefer to talk with humans.
So you can also offer seller consulting. So if you don't have the money to do a deal, or if you're looking for ways to reduce the purchase price, just tell the seller, look, instead of doing that deal instead of giving you that amount up front, I would like to have you continue to consult, and it's really important to me that you continue to be involved with the business. So let's carve that $200,000 out and have you consult for 20 months at $10,000 a month. Now the seller might say, well, tax-wise, that's ordinary income, it's not capital gain. And then you could always say, okay, I'll pay you for 22 months, right? I'll make that up for you or whatever. So it's just a way to transfer. We're only talking about how do we get to close without having to come out of pocket. Next would be a not non-consensual, but non-competing equity split. The non-consensual one doesn't work as well. I've tried it. That's where you have somebody else who's coming in for equity that's going to be active in the business, as opposed to a co-investor who's going to be passive. The non-competing person or company, you're basically saying, hey, I don't do coaching, you do coaching. I'm going to use this for recruiting for my business, like in real estate. So how about if you come in for 30% and I'll come in for 70%, and 30% they're coming in for is what you need for the down, right? An integrator investor. So if hopefully none of you are ever going to operate any of these businesses that you're buying. So you're going to have an integrator. If you know, is that Rocket Fuel that is? Yeah. So they have visionaries and integrators. So you're the visionary, you've got the integrator that's going to come in the business and actually do the operations. Let them buy in. In one of my businesses, a direct response business, I've got two people. I've got my banker, who is the director of private banking for US Bank, and a enrolled agent that did a tax controversy thing for us. And both of them had begged me for years to be able to invest in the business. So I bought a business and I said, you guys say you want to run the business. And this is great because they can run businesses. They are detail-oriented people. So I said, tell you what, you buy in for, this is kind of a fun deal, so I can't help tell a war story. So this happened because the company that I owned with two other partners was in litigation, and we were at the law office of the opposing counsel, who and my partners were attorneys, and so was I at the time, and are active practicing, and so we're at the guy's law office negotiating the settlement, and they're sick of the lawsuit, which had been going on for about 8 months, and so we were out in the parking lot talking about how we're going to go forward with this. And they were like, I hate this. This is stupid. I wish we weren't involved. And I was like, really? And they said, yeah. And I said, do you want to sell? And they said, yeah, I want to sell. And I said, I'll buy you out right now without settling this lawsuit, because I'm absolutely sure we can do it. And I know you guys are worried about it. And I said, but I want you to know, I think we're going to settle it, and I think it's a mistake. And they said, absolutely. And this is a business that at the time was probably wasn't making a ton, but maybe $30,000 a month, right, in profit. So we were each making 10 grand a month. And I said, all right. I said, I will give you $10,000 cash each, 1 month of what your share is, to buy you out right now, and I will take over the litigation. And they said, done. And don't ask why, but I had $20,000 cash in my car. And I literally took it out and handed it to each of them, and they were thrilled. That business I have owned now for 25 years, and it makes about $3 million a year. So one of my more fun deals. So then, having bought it for $10,000 each for 20 total and not being able to help myself, I went to these two people who had been begging me to come into that very business because they saw we literally would walk into the bank with duffel bags, multiple people with duffel bags of checks because it was a direct response business. We got all kinds of checks in the mail, and which I think is fun, by the way. If you've never done that, it's really cool to get duffel bags of checks. And the bank is kind of nervous when you first come in. I recommend that you wear something to keep you warm, like a ski mask, and then so I talked to these two people, and so I told each of them, I said, you said you want to come into the business. Here's what it's making. Here's what it's going to make. And here's what it's going to cost for you to come in. And each of them invested $300,000 later that week to come into the business. And they have been my partners ever since, and it's kind of fun. So it's just amazing all the deals that are out there. And I like to tell you these things just because it's funny how you fall into stuff like that, right? It's just, you just be ready. Always have $20,000 cash in your car. I'm sorry?
Was that after the lawsuit was settled?
They came in after I settled the lawsuit. Yeah. Bought the partners out before, had those people come in after. The other thing is to have employees or contractors invest. See if they want to invest. A lot of employees are interested in investing. A lot of them might have money to do that with. And contractors, people that are service contractors especially as well. They know the business. The other thing you can do is, let's say the seller wants, I talked to one of the guys that was in here yesterday, I said, what do you want if you exit? And he said, I want a Vacheron Constantin watch. And I said, how much is that Vacheron Constantin watch? And he said, it's $350,000. And I said, great. So if I'm trying to buy your business, what are you going to do with the first $350,000 you get? I'm buying that $350,000 watch. Great. What if I bought it for you and gave that to you instead, and we reduced the amount that I had to give you up front by $350,000? Would you do that? He said, absolutely. So you can go out and buy it. I mean, you can play credit card roulette, or you can maybe have an Amex that'll take the whole thing, but you can go out and get the assets that the seller is going to buy on credit so that you can give that to them as a down payment because they don't care. They're just going. That's why it's so important to find out what they want. Okay?
And you could just got 350,000 membership reward points.
That's what I was thinking too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, that's a round one.
If it's over 5K, that's 1.5. Anyways, yeah.
Nice. I mentioned you can have advisors do the same thing. So I had advisors invest. I could have also asked them to loan us the money. Advisors might want to loan in. The staggered tranche PPM is somewhat complicated, but what it really boils down to is that you go and put a private investor package together to raise the minimum down payment that you need, and then you give the seller a staggered down payment amount. This is usually for larger deals. A staggered payment amount, and then that gives you the opportunity to raise the valuation of the company as you do additional tranches. A tranche is just an investment from investors. So you're starting at a valuation of, say, $1 million, and you take your first money in at $1 million valuation, but then maybe 6 months to 12 months later, you need the next tranche for the seller, so you raise another amount of money, but you're raising it at a $3 million valuation. So you're giving away a declining amount of equity as the valuation increases. And typically you can end up with between 20 and 40% of the deal for nothing just doing that, because you're increasing the valuation by what you do.